fix your physical body. Work on your health, work on your fitness, work on your body language, your eye contact, your vocal tonality, your gestures and self-expressions, just on the nonverbal side, right? Outside of that, work on your communication skills. Learn how to ask really great questions in terms of studying, like, okay, they should often be open-ended or emotional if I want somebody to open up. Work on practicing compliments, like we said. Anything that is a skill in terms of making you more desirable in terms of appearance and nonverbal, and charismatic in terms of your skills, being able to riff in conversation, give compliments, ask great questions, be present in the moment instead of in your head through meditation or through exercises of learning how to be present in the moment. There's a great book called The Charisma Myth, which talks a lot about that. That so much of the most charismatic people in the world comes down to not the things they say, but their presence in the world and all that. And the way you can practice that is either alone by yourself or with almost anyone. So alone, you can ask yourself, you can say, okay, I'm on a date and I normally, talk about some of my hobbies or passions, but we don't really get into it and it kind of keeps to small talk. So I talked to somebody yesterday and he's like, I love to go skiing. And I love that I'm taking up screenwriting. And so I just started asking him introspective questions to talk out loud, where I'm like, well, why do you love skiing? What made you want to do it in the first place? What do you feel when you're there? What do you want to do with it in the future? Okay. And questions that most of us never ask ourselves. We just say, okay, I know I love skiing. And when I eventually talk to a girl, I just have to somehow, be really interesting about it. But our brain just goes to the default safest thing. So I'd say you can even practice yourself where you're like, okay, let me think of some hobbies. I want to build my self-expression and I want to get more, emotional or deep about things or playful or whatever. And let me take a subject. Let me draft up some introspective questions, or hell, Google introspective questions to ask yourself, and either journal your answers or say them out loud. Get used to hearing yourself talk. And what happens is, even though you're not doing it with somebody else, your brain is still getting that feedback loop of how to do it and gaining the confidence and listening to your own voice and digging into yourself and building those patterns. So then when it happens in the moment, you've already been mindful of those things, and it's really easy for your brain to go back to that and kind of hit those same self-expression. Same thing with compliments, okay? You could walk around and look at people and imagine what you would compliment them on the street. Hell, you can put your headphones in and when you're far away, say it out loud to yourself as if you're saying it to them. You could look at pictures of, people on Instagram and give them genuine compliments out loud and just what you think is attractive about them. You can practice these skills in online dating. Okay, if you don't get many matches, create a fake profile temporarily, type in a random dude's name on Facebook in the middle of nowhere, upload some great photos if you don't have some, and just swipe on a lot of women, even if they're not quote unquote attractive to you, and practice conversing. The answer is repetition. Repetition, whether it's out loud and vocalizing your thoughts, or journaling, or practicing it to men, or groups of people, or to imaginary people out in the world, or to photos on Instagram, your brain almost doesn't know the difference. It at least still permeates and works really well to the moment. So I think to wrap that up, all the nonverbal things, pretty straightforward. Get better haircut, get better grooming, work on your health and all that. All the conversational stuff and the active part of being attractive, flirting, being conversational. Don't see it as I only need to practice this with beautiful women and in those moments. That is a huge mistake men make, right? The answer is practice all the time. Set 5 minutes aside a day to interview yourself, to journal, to speak out loud, to practice on online dating, to practice looking at Instagram, to walk around and start to think of these things while you're out in the real world. Repetition is everything. And the people that are great at connecting with others, they work on it, just like any other skill. Any of you've played an instrument or your career path or became good at a hobby like cooking or something like that, the only long-term answer is know enough knowledge and then go practice a lot. Even with cooking, you don't need to cook in a restaurant or cook for someone else. You just cook for yourself and do nothing and just mess around, right? Last point I'll say there, the 2-to-1 rule I believe in, which is every hour you think about doing something for yourself to improve upon or you read about it, spend 2 hours trying to find a way to apply it. It doesn't have to be exact, but if you do that, you'll crush it in no time. And it sounds preposterous, by the way, to practice alone. I can't get into why it works, but I can't tell you how many times I've had guys who have almost no romantic experience, right? For example, and definitely no experience flirting and being very sexual. And like, hell, we'll just like pull up some photos of women that they know, and I'll be like, talk out loud about your feelings and why you find yourself attracted to them. And at first, it's like really hard, and they're nervous and they're shaking and they can't even, like, they hate the sound of their own voice. And then you push through, and like literally 5-10 minutes later, they're getting warmer. And then like 20 minutes later, it's like, dude, this is great. Like, you know, oh my God, your eyes are beautiful. I get lost in them. Next. And they're just getting really comfortable with it. I actually wrote a story about a guy that let us share this on one of my articles. Is he was in the same situation. We practiced alone when we were together. We went out for lunch with one of my female coaches. For 1 second, he split off from us, walked over to a girl, randomly complimented her on her hair and what he thought was really attractive about her. They talked for 20 seconds and then he ran back to us. And he had never done that before in his life. He was scared shitless before that. And all he had done was practice a few times to some imaginary women on Instagram. Anybody that's a programmer also knows the term rubber duck programming, which is sometimes when you have a problem and you can't think it out, they will literally put an imaginary yellow duck, or they'll actually have a yellow duck they used to have, and look at it and pretend like you're talking through your problem to them, and then all of a sudden it clicks. Getting comfortable with leading with flirting and getting comfortable with the volume of practice is key, and it makes your growth so much faster. It drives me nuts when guys are like, yeah, I've spent 3 years and I don't talk to a human. I don't say hi to anybody. I don't speak out loud to myself. I don't interview myself. How do I get really good at conversation? In that one date that I have where tensions are high and I'm scared shitless of losing this one person, you don't. You practice a lot beforehand.